The 2015 Bond film Spectre, Sam Mendes's follow-up Bond film to his masterpiece Skyfall, is probably, definitely the worst James Bond film in the entire franchise. And not only is it a bad James Bond film, it's also just a bad film in general. Its story is laughably bad. I mean, it's worse than any James Bond story, and there have been some pretty shit James Bond stories. But this one, as I'm sure you'll see if you bother to watch the rest of this video, it takes the cake. It's also an awful movie from a technical standpoint. Everything in it, minus a few set pieces and effects, is lazy. The shots look bad, the sequences play out in a stupid fashion, and everything about it just seems off. The music is bad, and even the acting is bad. It's like they recorded one take of just the actors doing their line readings in costume in front of a green screen, and all of it made it into the final cut of the film. The acting is wooden and unrealistic. The dialogue is terrible. I mean, so many notches below all of the Bond films to come before this. It's just laughable. Except I'm not laughing. And that's because the worst thing about this James Bond film isn't any of the technical failings that I've mentioned before. The worst thing that this Bond film does is it ruins all of the great Daniel Craig Bond films to come before it. Now, in my last video I posted, I covered this topic. I go through the trilogy of the Daniel Craig films to come before. Well, really, I just looked at Quantum of Solace because no one really gives Quantum of Solace any credit. I also discuss how the trilogy of Casino Royale, then Quantum of Solace, and then Skyfall is a perfect trilogy. It tells an arc. There is a great continued story throughout those films that was leading the Bond franchise in a very, very special direction. The worst sin that Spectre commits is ruining all of this by retconning, by raping, by ruining everything that those films did before with its shit, lazy story that really seems like a first draft that was written by 15-year-olds in like one night and then they just ran with it. Other than the story itself, all the other bad things about it I think can really be attributed to the fact that this film was planned out, filmed, edited, and even released in under a year. Something that normally takes 3 years, they did in 1 year. So Sam Mendes, the director, and the star, Daniel Craig, probably weren't even there most of the time. They had a team over in these snowy mountains, they had a team over here in Morocco, they had a team here in Mexico, and they were filming all of these scenes simultaneously. And I get that they were under a time constraint for whatever reason, but this strategy really takes something out of the movie if you're at least going to film it this way, because most of the times that we see our big name actors, it's like they're standing in some sort of green screen room, or maybe it's one of those back projected Mandalorian type rooms, but it looks worse than that. It looks like they're just standing in front of a green screen. It's like they sent all of these film crews all around the world to shoot all of the little shots, all of the little effects things, all of the B-roll, all of the transitions, all of the scenery, and then they just got Daniel Craig and Christoph Waltz and whoever else into a green screen room and filmed all of their lines, the first take of all of their lines, in like a couple days. And if any of these claims I'm making seem unrealistic or hyperbolic, just stay with me. Stay with me. Let me walk you through the film of Spectre and point some of this shit out to you, and hopefully in the process I will entertain you. I'll try to make it a bit funnier than it is just sad to watch. Oh, and also, if you haven't watched my previous video that goes through just how special the Daniel Craig trilogy is, and in particular Quantum of Solace for that video, go ahead and watch that before you watch this one. Or don't. I'll get my point across either way. Let's just jump in to the beginning of this movie. Spectre. So it starts with weird text on the screen saying that the dead are alive or something. This isn't like any other Bond movie. When I first saw this in theaters, I was thinking like, okay, maybe it will be a little bit more like Quantum of Solace, where it's a little artsier. You know, there's some metaphorical stuff. There's some additional stuff in there to interest you, to make you think about themes and blah, blah, blah. And then the movie goes into this awesome Day of the Dead celebration in Mexico City. And there are thousands of extras in costume, there's a float, and it's all the one shot. It is just a tracking shot through the crowd, and it follows James Bond through the crowd. It follows him up this elevator, it follows him into a hotel room. And so when I was watching this film for the first time, by this point in the theater, I was kind of excited. I was like, wow, this is all very impressive. We have a good tracking shot, we have good scenery. It looks like everything I'm seeing they worked really hard on. This is going to be good. And then James Bond steps out onto this balcony. Bond sees his target across the way, and he shoots at him, and the guy was selling a bomb. Bomb blows up in an explosion. Explosion doesn't look half bad. By this point in the theater, I was still thinking, yeah, this is not bad. This looks pretty good. But then the building starts to crack and crumble, and well, it just looks like shit. Like, it looks like 2012, Day After Tomorrow. It looks like that sort of shit CGI, and it's just unnecessary. So Bond goes out into the street, and the crowd is panicking. Police are there. There's rubble everywhere. It looks like a giant bomb just went off in the city, because a giant bomb just went off in the city. And he sees his target, and he starts pursuing him. They make it not even a block away back into the Day of the Dead parade, and the parade's still going on. Everyone is just still celebrating. Everything is normal. Like, people are not at all responding to the fact that this massive bomb just went off that leveled half of a city block. So then a helicopter flies through, and Bond gets onto the helicopter, and they fight. And by this point of me watching this film in the theater, it all looks so fake and silly to me that I'm just not invested. I don't feel anything. My pulse is far from pounding. And then there's a strange part where Bond grabs the ring off of this guy, and when he does that, then all of a sudden this dramatic music like abruptly plays into the scene. Like, there wasn't any dramatic music before, but now all of a sudden that was the thing that shifts it into the dramatic music. Like, when he grabs the guy's hand, that's what triggers it. It's like, it's not when he kicks that guy out, or it's not when he first gets on the helicopter, or when the chase first starts. It's no. When he grabs his hand in this certain way, that's when we'll decide to cue in the music. Anyway, Bond kicks the other guy out of the helicopter, and just like the first, we never see his body fall out of the helicopter or hit the ground or anything. He's just like, poof. So then we get to the opening credit sequence, and the song is just bad. It's a terrible fucking song. It's just whiny. The writings on the wall. Like, no, that's... It's bitchy and boring and bad. And while this song is playing, the interesting effects that we get during the song all involve octopus, or octopuses, octopi, however you fucking pluralize octopus. Maybe it's just one octopus. It all involves an octopus, because the ring that Bond got off the guy has a little octopus engraved in it, because it's Spectre. Remember Spectre, the old cheesy group of supervillains that Bond went against in the old movies, you know, Austin Powers, the Spectre. Yeah, that's Spectre. They're the threat in this movie. And this movie really wants you to remind you that, hey, remember that old thing? We're rebooting that now. This is that. So much so that they even named the fucking movie that, but they just couldn't let it go. They needed to throw that octopus symbol into everything. So we have octopus tentacles wrapping around James Bond. We have it wrapping around a gun. We have it coming out from behind the back of a mysterious, spooky villain that's clearly just a silhouette of Christoph Waltz. And then we also have the tentacles wrapping around a naked girl, which clearly the filmmakers were not aware of. Internet culture and weeb culture and incel, disgusting, pathetic Americans obsessed with Japanese perversions, you know, that culture, they weren't aware of that, because when you see tentacles wrapped around a naked girl, it makes you think of something a little, okay, really this movie was just made by people that are out of touch and have no idea what this sort of imagery is going to provoke in people, but believe me, this is not okay. People are not going to take this the way that you think. There's so much tentacle porn on the... Okay, let's move on. So we see Ralph Fiennes, whoever he is, playing the new M, and he's off to a good start, and he's in some sort of bureaucratic meeting with some milquetoast bureaucratic guy who wants to make some new surveillance system. And yeah, this nerdy looking guy that looks like he fucks and eats babies, he totally isn't a bad guy or anything. Totally isn't going to end up being a bad guy. So now MI6 is mad because Bond wasn't supposed to be in Mexico City doing all these things, and everyone's like, hey, what's Bond up to? What's Bond up to? What's going on? And there's like some sort of mystery as to why Bond is basically going rogue, but Moneypenny goes to James Bond's house, and she's like, okay, James, what's going on? And then he just like pushes a button on his remote, and it plays this video from M. And I guess this is a video that M recorded before she died, and she's like, hey, James, if anything happens to me, you gotta kill this guy and then go to his funeral, and it'll like expose who he's working with. You gotta do that for me. So this is a pretty secret, sensitive video that was only meant for Bond, that you think Bond would be more careful with, but apparently he just has it queued up on his computer or on his TV screen. The DVD's in, it's already ready to push play, and all he has to do is just walk in and push the power button on his TV, and the video just starts playing. So you think he'd hide it a little more, but you never know, you know, an outside character might walk in and he may have to easily give exposition. Bond has some stuff recovered from Skyfall. from the movie Skyfall, but also his childhood home was named Skyfall. So in that house, he has these photos that are recovered from it, and the photos are burned, and it's like a remnants of things. And I don't know, in my mind, it's a perfect metaphor for what this movie actually is. But we're supposed to care about this fucking photo that, of course, has one of the faces burned out on it, and we're supposed to, who's the mystery guy whose face is burned out of it? Considering we've seen all of these characters in the movie before, maybe it's the new character that's put in that everybody's making a big hype about. But then again, my first time watching this, I'm like, no, it wouldn't be that stupid, would it? Like, Bond wouldn't have known. Anyway. So then there's another scene of them putting a tracker in James Bond's arm, which I know will be a convenient plot device for later on, but like, I don't know, do you have to use this? We already saw like an identical scene in Casino Royale, except it was in like a cool environment, and it was Casino Royale, so everything about it was better. I do love the lines here with Q. They're good lines, maybe the only good lines in the entire movie, but again, seriously, are they in front of a green screen? Like, is this a real room that they're in? Or obviously it's a real room, maybe, but are these actors in the room, or do they just go and get a bunch of shots of the room and just have Bond and Q in a green screen room talking to each other? Or probably not even talking to each other. They brought in Daniel Craig for this day and he said all of his lines, and then Q said all of his lines another day. Who fucking knows? Maybe that's why all the acting in this fucking movie is so wooden. I don't know. Maybe this is real. I can't tell. It looks like they're in a shitty video game to me, but maybe I'm just going crazy. So Bond goes to the funeral for the guy that he just murdered in Mexico City, and he sees some spooky looking people. Instead of pursuing the spooky looking people, he goes to the guy's wife, because he figured, why not rub some salt or really cum in the wound? I mean, I already killed her husband. Let's fuck her too. So I guess she's gonna get killed by these spooky people, by this organization, whoever this guy worked for, because she knew too much. She was his wife, so as soon as he is dead, they have to get rid of her, so she isn't a loose end. And I do like the shot of her coming home from the funeral and walking through her house, and she's in focus the whole time, and there are just these out of focus guys following her. It's an interesting way to film this sequence. Out of focus behind her, we can see Bond shows up and he kills both of them for her, and this is a good scene. This feels like one of the scenes where Sam Mendes actually like showed up and said action and cut. It wasn't just one of his crews getting B-roll all around the world. This is one of those scenes that was actually like, a scene. So then she lets Bond fuck her, which, I get that he just saved her life, but he saved her life from a threat that only was occurring because of him. A threat that only was occurring because he fucking killed her husband, made her a widow, and now she's just gonna, okay. Sure. So she tells him where this group of supervillains, whoever her husband worked for, she tells Bond where they meet, at least the general area of it. The most super secret bad guy villains club. Where is their secret meeting place? Remember in Quantum, they had a pretty discreet, awesome meeting place. I'm thinking, where are they gonna meet now, huh? Okay, well, actually, it's not anywhere cool at all. It's just this fancy building, and parked in front of it are like dozens of, like $1 million cars. Real fucking subtle, guys. Nothing says we're just trying to blend in like everybody else, like having $1 billion worth of fucking exotic automobiles parked right outside where you're having your meeting. But anyway, Bond just walks up to the dude who lets people in, because I guess this is the sort of security we have. It's just one guy, hey, do I recognize you? Do I recognize you? Do I recognize you? And he doesn't recognize Bond, but Bond is like, no, I have this super secret ring, because I guess they all wear super secret rings. They're supposed to be this super secret hidden organization, but like if you want to find one of them, just look for the rings. Or if you capture a guy and you suspect he might be part of this group, just check his fucking fingers. If he has the ring, there it is. You'd say, well, they could take it off during their operations, but when the guy that Bond killed was out on his operation, he was still wearing his ring, and apparently all you need is this ring to get into this fucking super secret group. I mean, is this an elite international secretive organization, or is this a cult? Actually, not even a cult. Is this a club of 10-year-olds that built a tree house and you need a secret ring to get into? Like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Ready? Finger rings on!
The Finger Ring Friends.
Whoa! Cool!
Now, if you love finger ring friends, you've probably always wanted to be a finger ring yourself.
Mine smells like cinnamon. Smell.
Each kit comes with 3 rings, each with their own abilities. You could give your mom a surprise finger ring. You could even give the dog a finger ring. You can be fingering friends in gym class, fingering friends in the back seat of the family car.
When we get into the building, I like the scene in that I like the way that it was filmed. I like how it's very, very quiet. Christoph Waltz's silhouette is very ominous, and all the good villain vibes, whatever you want to call them. what they're discussing is how to fill the position that was just made vacant by Bond murdering the man that had it before. One guy steps up and he's like, yeah, I think I can do it. And they're just like, okay, yeah, you can do it. Does anyone protest to him being our new go around the world and kill people guy? And Dave Bautista walks up and he's like, I think I can do it. And instead of like them bickering about credentials or having this council of presumably really smart, calculating, cold people decide on who's going to be the go around the world and kill people guy, apparently they fight to the death right here in this building. And I guess Dave Bautista is supposed to be like a Jaws-like henchman, you know, like he has like a thing that he does. Instead of having metal teeth that he bites people with, Dave Bautista has metal thumbs that he sticks into people's eyes. Cool. But actually, I guess all of this was sort of a ruse. Like, I guess there was a reason why it was so easy for Bond to infiltrate this group with his super secret clubhouse ring. Because Christoph Waltz knew Bond was there. He looks right at him. So that makes sense why Bond would be able to get in so easily. It doesn't make sense how he's able to get out so easily when he inevitably flees after being discovered. He just jumps right through this window pretty easily, and then he's just out of the building like that was it. I mean, if I were a super secret bad guy organization with my millions of dollars of exotic sports cars parked right outside my building, if I had completely given up on subtlety, I would at least have a little bit of security. Like maybe the windows would be a little stronger. Maybe if someone were to be fleeing, I'd be able to send more than one guy after him, because that's what the scene becomes. It's Bond and Bautista with their super fast, cool sports cars racing through the streets of Rome. And it's cool that they really got the streets of Rome closed off for this. Like, they really did drive supercars through the streets of Rome. And yeah, you can tell that they are actually driving on the streets of Rome, but you can also tell that they closed off the streets of Rome because there are, like, no other cars that they interact with. I mean, there are a few. There's this old guy and... airbag! But in general, this scene, even though it's all real, it just feels to me like there are just no stakes. Something about it is off. And also, how the fuck could Dave Bautista fit in that car? This is a massive guy. I mean, look at him crammed into that little car. This is just fucking silly. They race along the river, and I guess because there's a dead end, and I guess because, like, you couldn't try and, like, turn around or do anything or just not put Bond in this stupid situation to begin with, you just have to have him wreck the car and parachute out of there. Like, hey, that was a pretty cool car. It's like the only real thing in the movie. Well, now it's gone. So now Bond is after Mr. White. Now, remember Mr. White? He was one of the best parts of Daniel Craig's first 2 Bond films, part of the Quantum organization. He was the guy who was behind the scenes in Casino Royale, and then he was the guy that Bond goes after because he was responsible for setting up the Vesper thing. Bond shoots him, apprehends him, they're interrogating him, and he gets away. And then when Bond is investigating the rest of Quantum, Mr. White is also there, but he doesn't get spotted. He gets away once again. In the past Daniel Craig Bond films, Mr. White and the organization that he worked for, Quantum, this super secret organization, their story really never concluded. They were the super secret Illuminati-like group that was supposed to be Bond's nemesis. And considering that the Daniel Craig Bond films were a reboot, a more realistic, gritty retelling of the original Bond character, Quantum was supposed to be the realistic Bond universe's version of Spectre. Quantum was Spectre, and as those Daniel Craig movies were coming out, a lot of Bond fans, me included, assumed that Mr. White was this Bond universe's version of Blofeld. His name was Mr. White, like a white cat. I mean, it's not much of a link, but there's some of a link. Also, Bond shoots him in the leg, meaning that he is crippled. He would be in a wheelchair, or at least sitting down most of the time. He has wounds and scars that Bond caused, so he would have a special interest in targeting Bond. It wouldn't be this super cheesy, Mr. Bond, we meet again sort of thing, but they were setting up Bond having a nemesis, and Mr. White was supposed to be Blofeld. They probably wouldn't have called him Blofeld, just like how they didn't call Quantum Spectre. They had different names, but were supposed to be the same thing. It was a realistic retelling of those old classic Bond stories. But then the Bond production team got the rights to Blofeld and Spectre again, and just sort of gave up on making a realistic but sort of vaguely based on it version of Spectre, and just decided to just fucking straight up name it Spectre, and we're just gonna have a character in this film named Blofeld. So, okay, they're gonna have a character named Blofeld, they can use the Spectre name, but still, that would mean that it would be Mr. White. Mr. White has been there since the beginning of Daniel Craig's James Bond story, so it's still gonna be Mr. White who gets called Blofeld. Mr. White could be his cover name, right? And you just say he's actually Blofeld, but well, no, actually. See, because as soon as we meet Mr. White in this movie, he says, oh yeah, I was poisoned and I'm dying, so now I'm gonna kill myself. So then he just kills himself. Still though, this is probably the best scene in the movie, just because the guy playing Mr. White, like all of the scenes he was in the Bond movies before, he lights up the screen.
You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond. So long.
So C, that nerdy character, the milquetoast baby raper nerd, yeah, C, that's his name. He's trying to create this big multi-country surveillance system so he can spy on everybody across the world, because Big Brother government is bad, and he is so clearly fucking bad. He's just so obviously the villain. It's so fucking heavy-handed, like everything else in this movie. And then Dave Bautista shows up to where Mr. White has been hiding out, and I don't buy Dave Bautista as an assassin. He's a big, strong, huge, like pro wrestler guy, I guess, in the way Jaws was, but Jaws wasn't really used for covert operations too much. And well, I mean, I guess he was in some things, but those movies are, you know that they're supposed to be stupid. This Bond universe is supposed to be above that. It's supposed to be realistic, because assassins aren't about being the giant fucking stone cold Steve Austin guy that sticks out in the crowd. Assassins are supposed to not be noticed. He has the opposite effect of what you would want out of a covert operative murderer. Anyway. So Bond tracks down Mr. White's daughter, because that's what Mr. White wanted him to do, and because she knows more stuff about this other stuff that's going to lead Bond to other stuff. And Bond just walks up to her, and he's just like, hey, yeah, your dad's dead, and I kind of like helped in that. Like, I just watched your dad's dead.
I kill people.
Where is he?
Your father's dead.
There's nothing tense or emotional or anything. It's awkward. They are so wooden. There's just nothing going on. There's nothing going on behind their eyes. It's like they just showed up and they just punched their ticket and they're just fucking there. He's a telemarketer on a phone. He's fucking there just lifting boxes in a warehouse. He's there just pushing buttons, filling the fucking jars with peanut butter on the assembly line. He's there just doing his job. He just shows up to get a check, and you can tell it's so unenthusiastic and so boring. But honestly, the lines that they're supposed to be fucking acting off of, fucking reading, they're so bad that I don't think they could have turned them into a performance even if they did try. So I don't fucking blame them. Why fucking try with this piece of shit? So Q shows up to this Snow Mountain doctor's office fancy place, and then Bautista also shows up. He somehow has now found the girl and Bond, and he grabs her, and one of the guys is going to syringe her, but then she just syringes him back, and everyone in the car just turns around, and Bautista just like kind of awkwardly points a gun at her. And it's like, just fucking take the syringe and stab it into her. You want to syringe her and it didn't work, so like just fucking syringe her again. You're huge. And then Bond randomly just shows up in pursuit of their little convoy of cars in a plane. It never shows where Bond gets the plane. He just appears in a plane from nowhere, following them. And then they have a little plane to car shootout with handguns. And if you look at Bautista's gun, it has 2 barrels. So you see, Bautista doesn't just have the metal thumbs that he uses to push into people's eyes. He actually has 2 things. He also has a gun with 2 barrels that shoots 2 bullets at once. Pretty cool. Hey, where have I seen this concept before? Oh yeah, and that other movie that Christoph Waltz played the bad guy in. Remember that one? It was a silly little action comedy that starred Seth Rogen. It didn't take itself serious at all. Remember that?
My gun has 2 barrels. That's not boring. And it was very difficult to make.
Well, I guess when the filmmakers started work on Spectre, they're just like, oh, well, we have Christoph Waltz, so I guess we can do the double gun thing now, too, because that was just so cool. And then he crashes the plane on top of one of the cars in the convoy, but now the wings are broken off from this plane. It's basically just a big sled that Bond has no control over. And then the cars get away from him, and his plane sled starts sliding down a hill, but no worries, because the trajectory that the plane is sliding down the hill at, well, the cars are following in the same trajectory. Like, Bond, he can't steer, he can't do anything, but it just so happens that the cars happen to be right in front of the plane when the plane crashes into the bottom of the hill, and he crashes into all of the cars and kills everybody there in the cars with the crash, except the girl, conveniently. And then of course you already know, I mean, it shows Batista go through the windshield, but you know he isn't already dead, and Bond should have known that too. I mean, he has a gun, so it's like, hey, that big bad guy, the guy that's been a thorn in your side, like the big threat, the main henchman to the supervillain group that you're trying to kill, now that he's knocked out, just put a fucking bullet in his head. Oh, and then Q figures out something, and this is where we get our big info fill, that all of the stories in the Daniel Craig Bond films that happened before. There's the stuff that Quantum organized in Casino Royale, there's the stuff that Quantum organized in Quantum of Solace, and then there's even the thing that was supposed to be independent of that, the Silva, just a guy that was supposed to be like the mirror bad version of James Bond, like that guy. Well, it turns out that all of these things are part of Spectre. Like I said before, Quantum was supposed to be that big super group of villains that was working in the shadows, like Bond's big nemesis. You know, it's a group. It's not just one guy, it's not one scheme, it is a group of people that you still don't know that much about. Like that was the scary thing. Like Quantum was supposed to be the tree that all of these little threats branched off of. But this movie says, no. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Quantum was a collection of villains, but now Spectre controls Quantum too. So actually it's Spectre that is a collection of collections of villains. Because again, even though this entire organization was all just supposed to be Quantum, they got the rights to call it Spectre again and couldn't think of a better way to retcon the fact that Quantum was supposed to be the major threat in all of these films before. So Bond and this girl go to this place that only she knows about because she's Mr. White's daughter. And they're staying the night at this place, and she's like, I'm not like your other floozies, James. I'm not gonna fuck you. I'm not gonna fuck you or love you. You can just sleep in the chair. I'm gonna sleep right here. I'm giving you the cold shoulder. And Bond is like, okay, sure. I mean, yesterday I just murdered a woman's husband and then I got to fuck her. I can't expect to murder a chick's dad and then expect to fuck her in the same night. So sure, I'll wait it out. And then there's this scene in the middle of the night where I can't tell if I hate it or love it more than anything else in this movie. It's Bond talking to a rat. So then the girl is like, I hate guns. Okay, then why are you here? What do you think we're doing?
You shouldn't stay.
Well, you shouldn't look like that.
Feminists aren't gonna like that line. Now remember, like just a minute ago where she was like, I'm not gonna fuck you, I'm not into you, and it's been like really standoffish and awkward and wooden between them, and like clearly these characters aren't supposed to like each other, or at least she isn't supposed to like him, like that's how it's been. Well, now all of a sudden everything's different. Now all of a sudden she is totally into him. She is just flirting it up. They're just talking back and forth, they're chatting, it is just great. She fucking loves him, and nothing really happened in between that point where she slept, where she's like, I'm not gonna fuck you, and now, other than Bond seeing a mouse and her saying that she didn't like guns, that she didn't like the whole thing that they were just doing, which you'd think would make her more negative, all of a sudden she's really positive. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, her feelings towards Bond change so drastically that she's basically already saying like, hey, why don't you quit your job and let's run away together? I mean, she doesn't exactly say that, but she's trying to figure out if he's ever going to quit his job, if he's going to quit being a dude who kills people. It's like one of those situations where you're on a first date and so where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, it's one of those sort of things, but like they don't ask that unless they like at least see some potential with you. Like she clearly likes Bond in this moment. So she just does like this, hey, yeah, I know I just hated you, but actually I love you now. And I know that we are about to like go take part in killing people, but do you think you could quit killing people? Because if you quit killing people, I might fuck you. And by fuck you, I mean like immediately get married and I'm gonna be the only Bond girl and we're gonna run away together. Oh look, Batista is here. Let's have a little on the train boxing fight, and we'll overly cut it, you know, cut to hide the fact that just some normally built British man is somehow holding his own against a 400-pound nothing but muscle professional football player guy, but who's gonna notice that? And you know the worst part about this fight is I kind of like how Bond starts using things in his environment to fight this guy. He realizes he doesn't have a chance. Then, you know, wraps the thing around his neck and they fall out of the train and it's like, yanks him out. It's good, and it's a good little throwback to all those little train fights of the Bond films before, but why the fuck does he have to say this?
Shoot. Shoot. Shoot.
Oh yeah, remember how like just minutes ago, how I said that you shouldn't kill people? And like how just hours before that, I said that I wouldn't fuck you? And then, you know, just minutes ago, how I said that I would fuck you if you stopped killing people? Well, now that you just killed a person in front of me, let's fuck. So they fuck. Then the next scene, they're just completely head over heels in love. There's no build to it. There's no arc. The scene before, they fucked. And the scene before that, they hated each other. But now they're just in love. And she says this.
I'm scared, James.
Are these real people? Is this why is this just, it's so fake. It's so wooden. And it's just so awkward. But the lair that they go to is cool. I like the lair. It's like inside like a big crater. There are butlers there, and they get their own rooms. And that picture that was burned before from Skyfall's things, that is actually in Bond's room. Like, this room was prepared for him. They were expecting Bond to show up. Then they are given a tour of the lair, and there's a big rock in the middle of the room.
Touch it. Touch it. You can touch it if you want. Do you know what it is? So many years up there, alone, silent, building momentum until it chose to make its mark, a huge, unstoppable force.
All through these scenes going through the lair, it's just everyone is so wooden and boring, and it's so fake, and it's like, look at them in this room. Are they in front of green screens? They're walking through, and there's clearly these overhead lights, and as they're walking through it, just the lighting remains constant. They're like in this perfect photography, like studio lighting room. It looks so fucking fake. What is going on here with this movie? Oh yes, and this is the big reveal. This is the big reveal. See, Christoph Waltz, he has been running Spectre, the organization, and Spectre has been behind everything. He is the author of all James Bond's pain. He somehow is the one who convinced Vesper to kill herself in a sequences of events that was already convoluted enough to get her to that point. Yeah, I guess somehow Christoph Waltz's character caused that too, and then he was behind Silva. It's not that Judi Dench's M was killed by Silva because she did something to screw over Silva in the past. It's no. Christoph Waltz made Silva kill M to punish James Bond. Because you see, Christoph Waltz has been targeting James Bond this entire time, and then for some reason he just decides to play the video of Mr. White killing himself, like just to like show his daughter, like, hey, your dad's dead, LOL, this is how he died, look. And really, it makes no sense for this character to play this video. Like, was he thinking that it was going to turn her against Bond because Bond was like there and kind of helped him do it? But like, really, Bond did the right thing. Like, he spared her dad an awful, painful death. She shouldn't be upset. I just don't understand why Christoph Waltz would be compelled to play this for the girl, or why this would even come up again in this movie, other than the fact that this was the movie's only good scene and it just felt like playing it twice. Okay, but still, we need to figure out why Christoph Waltz is targeting James Bond. Why is he taking such a special interest in Bond himself? Well, I guess that the big bad guy, the leader of Spectre, Blofeld, the guy that's known for being James Bond's nemesis, the guy that was parodied in Austin Powers. Well, I guess in this Bond film, that guy is also James Bond's brother. Yep, this movie's story says that once Bond lost his parents, he was adopted by another family, and the older brother in this family was jealous that his dad gave attention to their new adopted son, James Bond. Christoph Waltz was jealous of his adopted younger brother getting some of his daddy's attention. So later on, he murders his dad and gets away with it, and ends up becoming the leader of the most super secret bad guy, really super genius villain treehouse club that runs the world. He goes on to become like the most intelligent evil person ever because he's mad that daddy gave little James Bond attention. Now, how can a person this petty and jealous and evil and ridiculous go on to lead this supergroup? This guy would not be a good leader of a supergroup. He would not take the supergroup into the levels of taking over the world. Okay, he couldn't even manage a Wendy's. And again, this is all because they are saying that Blofeld and Bond are brothers. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, you see that other face that was burned out of the photo? See, that's Christoph Waltz's face. Are you fucking kidding me? Blofeld and Bond are brothers? Do you see how inconceivably stupid this is? That's what happened in the third Austin Powers movie that came out like fucking 10 years before this movie.
Him.
What? Dr. Evil's not your son. I am.
You both are.
What?
Austin Powers, the parody of the Bond franchise, made it so Dr. Evil and Austin Powers, i.e. Blofeld and James Bond, were brothers. And it was fucking stupid. It didn't make any sense, but it was a parody. It was a joke. It was supposed to be stupid. It was supposed to not make any sense.
Frickin' idiot.
The Austin Powers franchise as a whole was something that mocked James Bond. So how does this modern retelling of the Blofeld story, the thing that the character of Dr. Evil mocks, how do they deal with their updated version of the Blofeld character? They copy the plot points of the franchise that mocks them.
Frickin' idiot. Frickin' idiot.
Okay, we gotta get through it. We gotta get through the rest of this. Okay, so Blofeld, he straps Bond into a chair and he drills into his head. And he's drilling into his head, into a certain part of the brain, to remove Bond's ability to recognize faces. And while he's doing this drilling, there is hardly any protest from the woman. She's just fucking not talking at all. She just seems to not fucking care. But I imagine her sitting there. She's supposed to sit there so Bond can see her, being all sad for him dying as he is dying. So he can really fucking twist the knife into James Bond so he can make him as miserable as possible. But you see, if you drill into his brain and you lobotomize him to the point where he can't even recognize faces, what is the point in doing any of this? Your whole scheme was to fuck with James Bond for like 20 years and then lure James Bond to your lair for this moment and say, look, James, it's me, your older brother. I've been messing with you all these years, and the last thing you get to know before you die is that I was behind it. The last thing you get to see is my face and the crying face of your loved ones. Oh, except not really. For some reason, I'm going to make it so you can't see faces at all. I'm just going to turn you into a lobotomized vegetable so you don't even know what's going on. The scheme alone of Blofeld is ridiculous enough, but this is just the stupid cherry on top of the shit sundae. It doesn't make any fucking sense. But then all of a sudden, the girl decides to care, and she walks up to Bond, and he gives her a watch, and she throws the watch, and the watch is a grenade, and it explodes, and it damages the equipment in the room, and conveniently Bond's chair just fucking opens right up. And even more convenient, all the dozens of bodyguards, mercenaries, murderers with assault rifles, they're just terrible shots. They can't hit Bond at all. You'd think that the president of bad guy country would have slightly better security, but no, Bond just gets a hold of a gun and just walks out the front door, shooting each bad guy once, just perfect aim, boom, 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 while walking. There's hardly any bullets even hitting around him. At some point, a gas canister gets hit and things start exploding because the scene just decided to be a mission straight out of GoldenEye. This is just video game levels of stupid, but video games get away with it because they are video games. I guess this movie's solution to this was making all of the imagery in the movie just look just as realistic as a video game and hoping that it would somehow fool us, but it doesn't fool me because this action scene is shit. They walk in a straight line, Bond shoots all of them with ease, and they're all dead, and there's a big explosion. There were no stakes. I never felt that they were in danger for a moment. There was nothing to keep me interested in that. And again, the characters themselves, they don't have any chemistry with each other. They clearly don't care about each other. They're just reading lines. It doesn't matter that she's seeing Bond being tortured. It doesn't matter that they escaped because this is all fake looking, fake feeling, and stupid. So now they're back in London, and that C guy, he's about to bring his big 1984 Big Brother surveillance system online. They have to stop it because they realize that C is working for Blofeld, and Blofeld is going to use the surveillance system to do even more evil, spooky villain things. So Bond reunites with his team to stop it, but then as he goes out of the door, she follows him and just says, James, no, why do you have to do this? And it's what do you mean? You've been here the whole time. You can't go kill anybody else. What are you talking about? I can't go kill anybody else. Do you want the world to be ruled by the shit we just dealt with? Did you not see the guy he was drilling into my brain. He was drilling into my brain just for the fucking fun of it. This guy's crazy. Everybody that works for him is crazy. We need to stop this shit. And she's no, you can't kill anybody else. But you were there helping me kill people the whole time. I get that you don't want to go along now because you're finally safe. I just can't do it. Are you serious? You're just gonna leave? You have to make a choice. It's either me or literally everyone and everything else.
You're saying goodbye.
Yes. Take care. You're a good man, James.
I can't. God, it's so terrible. It's so awkward. Yeah, Bond gets captured right away. They pull up to a spot where they're supposed to be taking him. He conveniently and easily gets out of it, almost as easily as he's accomplished every other thing he's done in this movie. But he enters the building that they were about to forcibly push him through anyway, and he sees that a full fun house is set up for him. There are pictures of his past, and there are all of these things tormenting him. It's like a carnival funhouse mirror bullshit thing made just for him to wander through alone and be scared, and ooh, who's around this corner, and oh, where's he gonna jump out and get me, and God, this is so scary, I'm so startled, I am just so tortured by all of these things I've done. Oh, what was that? But for Bond to have this moment that he's having now, what was the plan with the two guards that were bringing him here? Were they supposed to walk through this stuff with him while he was hand-tied? Were they supposed to be and if you look to your right, Mr. Bond, you can notice that we have Silva set up. And then over here, Mr. Bond, you can see our Vesper attraction. You remember Vesper, right? Were they supposed to be accompanying him on this fucking theme ride through this personalized funhouse? Or does this movie just have no plan at all? And then we see the C guy again, because Q and M, seeing as how they've just been reduced to silly, goofy sitcom characters that accompany James Bond, they break into the C's big, fancy spy on people building, and Q starts doing hacker stuff because the spy network is presumably being run through the internet and computers, and because the character of Q has glasses, he can stop it. So Bond makes it through the weird wreckage maze thing that was personalized for him, and he finds brother Blofeld, or Brofeld. I'm calling him Brofeld the rest of this movie. That makes sense. Yeah, Brofeld. Okay. He finds Brofeld behind some bulletproof glass, and of course he starts taunting Bond, like the evil supervillain that he is.
My wounds will heal.
No, dude. They won't. There's a giant gash across your face. We can't fix that. And your eye is, filled with milk. You're never gonna see out of that again. Your face is fucked. Your wounds are not going to heal. I get what he's saying, Bond is gonna be, emotionally tortured or whatever because of the things that he did. I get that you want Brofeld to say something like that, but this is one of those situations where another draft maybe could have been of service to the film. Maybe having a close-up of a guy's face with wounds that clearly aren't going to heal. Maybe don't have him saying the exact lines of, my wounds will heal, when his wounds will never actually heal. Have him say something like, my soul isn't the one that's going to be tortured, or something like that. Something that means the same thing, just, doesn't make it look like your movie is making fun of itself.
No.
And then Christoph Waltz is oh yeah, we actually kidnapped the girl. Because yeah, remember that part in the movie where the girl was I can't be around you, James, even though I've been with you the whole time. I don't want to be with you because you're going to be a killer, so I'm going to go wander off on the streets alone because I'm mad. Remember how that didn't make any sense for that character to do? Well, see, yeah, that's why we had this character do it, so we could fucking kidnap her and hide her here in this building. You see, Bond, she's hidden somewhere in this building, and I'm going to blow the building up. So you can either leave and live and have her die, or you can search for her in the building and maybe you'll find her, but in which case, you won't have enough time and you'll still both die. And the only thing Bond can think of to say at this point is,
You're bluffing.
What? Why the fuck would he be bluffing? He's proven himself to be pretty capable in the whole coming up with convoluted evil schemes department. He's not bluffing. Do you see all the wires and shit rigged everywhere? Do you see the bulletproof glass in front of the guy with the big scar across his face? What evidence is there for you to think that he would be bluffing? Isn't Bond supposed to be really, really good at knowing if people are bluffing or not? Isn't there an entire movie that's about James Bond playing and being really good at a game that requires the player to be really good at telling if people are bluffing or not?
This time it's personal. Kill him.
So yeah, Christoph Waltz just pushes the button, which starts the timer for the whole building to blow up, and then Bond has to make the choice or something, so he can save the girl and die, or he can live, but then she dies, or wait, what are?
I'm going to place him in an easily escapable situation involving an overly elaborate and exotic death.
And then the letter people, Q and M and C, are fighting in the big technology computer room, and C fucking falls, but just like the people that fell out of the helicopters, we don't actually see him fall. It's just, yeah, he fell. I mean, you can't at least throw a fucking dummy off of a roof. I want to see people fall. So now Bond only has a minute to fucking find this girl who is somewhere in this building. I mean, it's a pretty big building. This is the old MI6 headquarters. It's huge. So he's running all over through this fucking big dumb CGI set piece. It looks like he's running through a video game, like literally like a platforming, jumping over alligator pits video game. Then he gets to a certain spot and he sees Christoph Waltz taking off in a helicopter, and even though helicopters are really, really loud, he somehow hears her yell. How convenient. And then even though this building is just a massive labyrinth of fucking rubble and bullshit, he still ends up finding her location. How convenient. And because they only have a couple seconds before this bomb detonates, destroying the whole building and killing them, Bond's just like, hey, trust me, let's jump down this hole. And they jump down this big hole, and then they just fucking happen to land on a net that's at the bottom of the hole. How convenient. It's like a circus fucking funhouse carnival. There's even a net for the gymnastics people to fall on. I mean, what the fuck was that net there for? Why was that net there? And even though this is an old abandoned building with all the technology, anything useful, everything stripped out of it, it's just concrete and steel at this point, there happens to be a boat sitting there that still has gas in it and is still operational that they then take to escape the building right as it explodes. How convenient. And then as soon as they get out onto the river, they see Christoph Waltz helicopter right in front of them. How convenient. But all Bond has on him is his sidearm. But no worries, he's still a really, really good shot, even though in the movie just before he wasn't a good shot. And even though he is shooting from a standing position while on a boat that is traveling at high speeds across a pretty massive river, and even though he is doing this said shooting at a helicopter that is very far away, he somehow manages to hit this moving target in the exact spot that this moving target would need to be hit for any damage to be caused. Yes, he hits the helicopter in the critical part that you have to shoot in a boss fight to do any damage. How fucking convenient. The helicopter crashes, Bond walks up to him, and right when you think this movie couldn't possibly pack any more cliches into its story, it has one of these moments. You know, the moment where the good guy has the chance to kill the bad guy, and you know, there's a good debate with himself, because like, he wants to get revenge and everything, but if he kills the bad guy, then it makes him like, you know better than a bad guy. Except it never really does, because like, the bad guy's the bad guy and he's the good guy, and sometimes good guys kill bad guys. And it seems like movies now, even movies about characters that murder people for hire, still can't wrap their head around the fact that maybe you could just have him shoot him. But no, he doesn't shoot him. And I guess this would make sense because, again, they are copying Austin Powers' Goldmember's story, and, you know, Austin Powers doesn't shoot Dr. Evil, so I guess Bond isn't going to shoot Blofeld either.
Austin, are you sure you can trust Dr. Evil?
He's my brother, baby. Yeah.
But then the girl is there, and there's the implication that Bond is quitting. He's going to quit because the only way she's going to be with him is if he quits killing people. If he quits being a spy, he needs to leave the life. So he leaves with her. He chooses this girl to be the girl that he finally settles down with. And we know this is true because in previews for the next movie, she's in it. Like, this is Bond's, like, this is his fucking wife. Like, this is the Bond girl that he chooses. So that's how this movie ends. They run away together, and there wasn't a single scene in it leading up to this where they had any chemistry or any sort of realistic romantic feelings towards each other at all. And it just, this movie just says, yeah, everything you love about those last Bonds, where he was like an interesting, deep, layered character, and where there's this interesting like group of villains. We were building slow to reach some sort of really interesting thing, and like Mr. White was gonna be Blofeld, and like no, fuck all of that. Fuck all of that. None of that even happened. All that was caused by James Bond's brother. Mr. White doesn't even matter. The only thing that matters about Mr. White is that Bond is gonna fucking marry his daughter, even though they have no connection at all. So yeah, that's the story. Oh, and also we're gonna film it in like 4 months because we figured you wouldn't be pissed off enough with the terrible story. We'd have to make the experience of watching it and everything really terrible for you too. Oh, but don't worry, we're not done ruining this awesome character that we slowly forged and created over the first 3 amazing movies that we found him in. No. We're not done completely undoing him just yet. You see, in 15 years, or whenever it actually is that the next one comes out, we're gonna really fuck him over. Just you wait.
Frickin' idiot.
Like the video.
Turn this off.
Subscribe to the channel.
This is important.
If you like content like this. And share it to that one fucking British kid that has a channel on James Bond things. He might like this video. And by that I mean he might allow me to poach some of his subscribers off of him. So fucking share it with him, please. Okay, bye.